These are our Frenzy Faves.
Today, our Frenzy Fave is a favorite Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, Chris, tell us about the episode we're looking at today.
Thank you, Professor. We're going to look at an episode entitled The After Hours. This is from season 1. It was episode 34. It was directed by Douglas Hayes and written by Rod Serling. For our cast, we have Anne Francis as Marcia White, Elizabeth Allen as the saleswoman, James Mulholland as Mr. Armbruster, John Cornwall as the elevator man, Patrick White as Mr. Sloan, and Nancy Rennick as Miss Keevers. Prof, what happens in the after hours?
So Marcia visits a department store looking for a gold thimble as a gift for her mother. She's directed to the elevators, but a different elevator door opens, and the elevator operator tells her that she wants the 9th floor, specialty items. A quick look at the elevator's progress shows that there's the 8th floor, the roof, and then nothing. However, the doors open on a large, empty store floor. She hesitantly looks around for help, and suddenly there's one saleswoman at the counter. Marcia explains what she wants, and the saleswoman directs her to a counter, the only counter with anything in it. It's a gold thimble. Marcia buys it, but the saleswoman is very strange. She seems to know her somehow, calls her by her name. Like, how do you know me? As Marcia goes down in the elevator, she notices that the thimble has a scratch. The elevator operator directs her to the complaint department, 3rd floor. At the complaint department, Mr. Armbruster is very confused. There is no 9th floor at the store. When asked to describe the saleswoman that served her, Marcia sees her across the room. However, it's just a mannequin that looks exactly like the saleswoman. There's a bit of a hubbub about it. The complaint department is kind of wondering what's going on. And an upset Marcia takes a little nap on Armbruster's office couch. When she wakes up, the store is empty. She goes back to the 9th floor where the secret is revealed. She is actually a mannequin. Every month, the mannequins get to see what it's like to be real for a month. Marcia has gone over time. But no matter, who's next? The story ends with us seeing Marcia the mannequin on the sales floor. I enjoyed this story for a couple reasons. First of all, I'm a big Anne Francis fan, and she's pretty good in this. I think she's very good at being a little confused, but not like victim-y confused, just a little bit just like, what's going on here? And as things finally dawn on her. Now, of course, Anne Francis has been that guy in that show on this show. Two things came up with this episode. Marcia was actually said in this episode. It reminded me of the Brady Bunch. And then it also reminded me of that witch episode with Kolchak, the one with the living mannequins. That's a fun story. And this isn't as scary. The mannequins aren't creepy and threatening, but it's a similar idea. They understand what I think I really liked about this story, that even though Marcia spent an extra day or so out in the real world, they aren't really that mad at her. It'll be fine. So Chris, what did you think about the after hours?
Thanks, Prof. Yeah, the episode you referred to of Kolchak is the trivia collection. It's my mom's favorite episode, and it is a great episode. And I didn't make the connection, so applause to you because I can really see the similarities. Fantastic. I always like to get the trivia out of the way. Anne Francis is probably best known for being in the movie Forbidden Planet. Of course, we know her from Honey West. I also did an episode of Wonder Woman later on. You might recognize the Mulholland guy. He's the guy who just seems like the manager with the flower in his suit. He played, I think, in an episode of Batman, he was like Liberace's lawyer or Chandler Harry, the one character's lawyer. And I thought he really did a good job. He looks so put upon, and he just is just his facial expressions are gold in this episode, where he does the double take at the end, where he sees, who he thinks is Anne Francis, but it's really a mannequin, and he just stops. And just the little snootiness, just the little asides he does right before the store opens, when he examines the powder and he looks at the saleswoman and he goes, well, it'll sell, just the little touches that he brings brings in nuances to the role I thought were really, really marvelous. And then when he asks Anne Francis's character, Marcia, to produce the receipt, he sort of gives like this little smirky, smug look at her, you know, that, aha, you know, I gotcha. So just enough to convey with his face is just really, really marvelous. They're just so well cast in this little part. I really liked. I like Mulholland's work in this one. Yeah, what an episode, because we really get this creepy vibe. And if you're an initial viewer to this, you really don't know which direction this is going. She goes onto the floor. And this is a time where there's an elevator operator, which seemingly is unheard of as a profession these days. That was an actual job back then. And he couldn't be any more disinterested in what Anne Francis is going through, you know, with respect to that. And she winds up on this creepy floor where there's only one clerk and there's only one item. And if you're watching this for the first time, you wonder what in the world is going on. Do we care about the thimble? Do we care about this? And then we sort of put it together when she sees that the saleswoman later is a mannequin. And, you know, props to everybody involved with respect to this, because they have likenesses down so well of the characters. Yeah. You know, with the operator, the saleswoman, Anne Francis herself. I mean, I wasn't sure as a little kid, was it Francis herself, or was it really a mannequin that looked like Anne Francis? Because they look so similar in appearance. You really aren't sure, you know, if it's one or the other, you know, because as a kid, you know, there was an episode of Batman where there's a statue of the Riddler, but you know, it's Gorshin, you know, just posing really quick. But now you can kind of see just the way the teeth and the eyes are, you know, with how they're done. It's really, really creepy. It's really, really effective. This is a good standard Twilight Zone episode with a nice little bit of a twist. And I think, you know, we wonder, what do our inanimate objects, do they come to life when we're not looking? You know, do those dolls do something? Do you have a playland? Do they have a playland and world all of their own that we don't know about? And it's nice to think that, you know, some of those things really, really exist, and it's really, really creepy. The only other thing I had in my notes was this. Every now and then, the Twilight Zone episodes end on a still shot of something that is, you know, is seen in the episode, but not necessarily germane to the story. And I like, of all things, like One for the Angels, they looked at the clock in the girl's bedroom. And this episode ends with the closing credits. We look to see at the elevator, you know, symbol of the elevator markings, you know, where we see B for basement, G for ground, M for mezzanine, and the rest of the floors. And I like the little nuances, and I don't know how it gets to be decided what's going to be used for what, but I just, as a kid, I kind of marveled at that, because as a kid, I was trying to figure out what did M stand for. And it was like a few years before I caught on, oh, it's mezzanine. You know, I didn't know that. As a little kid, when I watched it, I go, well, B's for basement, G's for ground. What is M? And then it goes right to 3, you know, and I go, oh, mezzanine. It wasn't until I saw the word mezzanine as I grew up, you know, that's what it was for. But it's those little things you learn, you know, when you watch as a youngster, you know, and those things. And kudos to whoever chose, of all the things they could have picked in this episode to use, you know, during the closing credits, they chose that. And that's sort of like a little one-off quirky thing that just, I kind of dig, you know, maybe me myself, but I thought that was nice. Yeah.
So this week's Frenzy Fave is the After Hours.
Not just another comic or day. These are our frenzy faves.